What's going on, guys? Gary here with RAS Group. Today I want to talk to you guys about something that has really changed the trajectory of my shooting journey and my outlook on the shooting culture as a whole, and that is USPSA competition shooting, or otherwise known as United States Practical Shooting Association. The best shooters in the world are coming out of USPSA. I noticed this about a year ago. I wanted to be a high-level shooter. I really thought I was. I had a dose of humble pie. But I want to talk to you guys about it. I want to give you my experience, and hopefully that can help you decide if USPSA is for you or if it's not. There's some positives, some negatives. Let's dive into it. So, guys, I want to start with my experience, kind of my own little personal journey through USPSA. I dove into my first USPSA match I believe October 5th, 2024. I had just gone through the Eagle Tactics Gateway Defense course, and I was fortunate enough to win the stage at the end of the day. Actually, I didn't win. Vinny from Monsoon Tactical won that stage, and because the grand prize was from Monsoon Tactical, it defaulted to me. And at the time, I'm thinking, how hard can this competition stuff be? I'm a pretty decent shooter. I did this whole USPSA thing, and I did pretty well. How hard can it be? Well, saying that amongst a group of equally unexperienced, unqualified shooters, and being the one to win a grand prize at a training event, I learned very quickly did not translate right over. But I left there. I signed up with USPSA. I signed up on Practice Score. I found a match at Gem City in Erie, Pennsylvania, closest one to me. And I figured, how hard could it be, right? I was a gym class hero at a training event. These guys don't know what's coming for them. Watch me work, right? Well, that is not what happened. I went to my first match, and I got my first dose of humble pie. And I got my ass kicked. Got my ass handed to me, and I didn't like it. I was actually pretty upset about it. I shot pretty accurately, but at the pace of a snail. I didn't really understand the speed of processing time, the speed of shooting, speed of movement, a lot of these things that I've come to not necessarily master, not necessarily fully understand, but appreciate and understand a little bit more. First match resulted in me going 35th out of 114 overall and 5th out of 30 in carry optics at a 67.04% of the top shooter on that day, who was my buddy Jake. Jake is a grandmaster level shooter. Awesome dude, very good competitor, but 67% is a pretty large gap, right? That's 33% deficiency of a guy that I kind of had known for a while, known him from the days over at Bull Creek, and it was kind of upsetting in a way, right? That was not a good feeling. I had really felt at this point in my journey that I was a high-level shooter, and I even felt some sort of insult when I spoke to high-level shooters and I didn't get that reaffirmation that I was looking for, right? That approval. And I had done the whole Instagram shooting challenge thing. I had done the IDPA game. I've done the stand and deliver game for a long, long time, but this was something completely different. I had neglected any type of real dynamic movement or dynamic training or complex training, making my training difficult up to this point, and it directly reflected. It showed. And that was something that I didn't want to admit at the time, right? Let alone the issues with, fundamental development and all those things. A lot of issues reared their head, and it left me feeling very out of place. It left me feeling like I didn't really know what my skill level really was, a lot of things. So that was my first overall experience, and that will be the first experience for many of you. You will get humbled. You'll go to your first match, and you'll be like, man, I rocked it, and you look at the overall results, and you will feel like you have left a lot of meat on the bone, and somebody somehow put 30 seconds on you over 5 to 6 stages, and at that time, you're going to look at it and be like, how is that even possible? And I promise you, if you stick with it, you'll understand more and more and more why that's happening. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. So we fast forward to 1 year later. This October 5th or October 6th, one of the two, I just shot a match at Gem City. It kind of celebrated in a way 1 year in USPSA for me. This time it went much differently. I claimed 13th out of 90 overall and 1st out of 27 in carry optics. Still left some meat on the bone, but much better 1 year later comparatively to around the same group of shooters. Jake wasn't there, otherwise I probably would not have gotten first, but overall much better percentage-wise, efficiency, all of those things, right? Within this 1 year, I achieved the rank of A class in carry optics. I'm pretty proud of that. I'm working to continue to shoot at an A class level and transcend into shooting at a master class level, and someday pursue the rank of master. That's the next step. I don't want to achieve a rank before I can shoot at that level. To me, that's pretty disingenuous, but maybe we'll talk about that in a little bit too. I ended up winning high B class at the Eastern Lake Sectional. I ended up winning the A class at Western PA Sectional, both in carry optics. That's the benefit of getting humbled early on in my shooting journey, not liking the results, and working my ass off ever since. Now, that does come at a price, and we'll talk about it, but that was my overall experience. Now I want to talk to you guys about some of the positives and some of the negatives that I have seen, experienced, felt through being involved and diving into USPSA. Alright, now I want to talk to you guys about some of the positives that I found in USPSA. One match can show you a year's worth of homework that you could work on, right? Whether it be your transitions, your movement, your raw fundamental development, any of those things. You could have a training plan for all the days to come when you go out to the range, whether you're training once a week, twice a week, once a month, any of those, you will be filled with homework from one match and doing your own data and analysis. So, and guys, I apologize for the wind. I'm sure that it's not great, but work with what we got, right? So, this goes into the idea of like your raw fundamental development, whether it be better grip, better vision, better manipulation, straws, reloads, all those things you can gain on top of all the dynamic stuff I talked about, like the movement, the transitions, everything, right? Everything can show you where you're lacking. Second, you'll make a ton of friends and connections within the industry, right? People that have a similar vision as you do, that train to the same standard, people that want to equally get better, and the whole iron sharpens iron clause. I believe that is a genuine thing. However, I do believe some people believe they're iron when they're really tinfoil, and therefore they have a demand to train with people much above their skill set. That's a whole other thing entirely. But iron does sharpen iron. So you meet people, you make connections, you learn. People are super helpful at your first match. If they know it's your first time, they'll give you almost too much advice, right? They're going to overload you sometimes and try to give you stage plans and methodologies and all these different things. Take what you can digest, leave the rest for next time, right? Pick each match, pick a thing to work on, and work on that thing. And before you know it, you're working all these different things at one time. But like I said, everybody at a match is usually pretty decent. There's always going to be a few dickheads. Don't get me wrong. Those exist everywhere. But for the most part, everybody's pretty helpful. And really, the best thing for me, and I do believe all instructors should compete, personal mindset. Not everybody, if you don't like it, don't follow it. It's up to you. But I do believe that the best instructors compete, and you get to see in real time if there's an instructor in your area that does compete and you want to know kind of what they're about. It gives you a free view at what they teach and how they teach it or what they prioritize, right? That's pretty cool to me. I like doing that. I really believe that the more you compete, the better you understand the fundamentals and a lot of the stuff that goes into them. But these are just a few of the positives I've seen from being in USPSA, right? Just overall growth, better connections with people, more understanding of the gun, all those things. And there's more, right? There's a ton more that I could find and figure out. But I also want to talk about some of the negatives, and I don't want this video to be 1,000 years long. So let's dive into that now. Okay, guys, and I'm going to be expanding upon these negatives a little bit more than I did the positives, because for as much as I'm going to talk about the negatives, I'm going to precursor this with there are far more positives to be gained from USPSA, but I do want you guys to know the honest to God's truth, and I want to break this stuff down so that you're not confused about it. I believe it is important. So some of the negatives in USPSA, you're going to learn who's about it and who isn't really quick if you know what to look for. In the USPSA world exists a thing as paper class shooters. Now, these are people that have achieved a rank through classifiers. They shot the classifiers at either at the very tippy top or even beyond that compared to their baseline skill level. They got a good ranking, where maybe they got a masterclass run, a GM run, achieved enough of these in a row, and they get a certain designation next to their name that says GM so-and-so, M so-and-so. Impressive in itself. However, the problem is that if they're not regularly competing at that level and maintaining what the percentage for that skill level base is in competition, it's kind of dishonorable in a way, right? It's not true. You usually tell through competition rankings who some of these people might be if, you know, you typically have your grandmasters at the top, then your masters and your A, B, C, Ds. Well, if all of a sudden you see a master in a sea of B class shooters, that might be a sign, right? Maybe they just had a really bad day. That is possible. And I have seen people have those really bad days. Now, if that really bad day keeps popping up match after match after match after match, and that's just their skill level and what they shoot at, well, now we can kind of make this determination like, okay, you shot really good on some stand and deliver classifiers, but when it comes to match performance, something isn't quite adding up here, right? And there are guys that will own up and say, yeah, I shot these classifiers really, really, really well, and now I'm learning how to shoot at this level. That's respectable. What's not respectable is when you have somebody tell you, like, I'm a masterclass shooter in, say, carry optics, and they either don't shoot matches anymore, or when they do shoot matches, they've never actually shot a match at that masterclass level. And that's where we start to really dive into, you know, who's actually about playing the game and who's about looking like they play the game really well. I'm not saying that this is necessarily a 100% universal truth, right? This is just from what I've seen, from what I've observed, this is something that I find to be a consistent issue in USPSA, where I think how they classify shooters really isn't at the pinnacle of what it could be, right? Whereas if you had a formula for taking match performance based on approved stage designs and calculating it through actual match performance, I think you'd have a lot less of this. I think that's something that USPSA needs to look into going forward, is that these stand and deliver mini stages, if you will, are great. They're a lot of fun. People have figured out how to ace them, but it's not really indicative of overall shooting performance, which is really what a designation and classification should be, right? This leads me into a second issue that I'm going to touch on briefly. This designation does matter to an extent, right? As an instructor, if I advertise, say I'm a B-class shooter and I have a really good curriculum, I put out really good stuff, but I'm a B-class shooter, why would somebody pay equal money to me in their mind? Why would they pay me $250 for a day of training when an M-class shooter is also offering that same $250 for a day of training? Now, this is getting more into the business side of the house, but for me, it does matter. I do run a training company, I do compete, and I do see these things. That doesn't just go to the, you know, who are people going to give money to and support type deal. It also goes into the sponsorships. Sponsorships are a lot more than free stuff. Company affiliation with you is a powerful thing as far as marketing. If companies are aligning with people surely based on classifications and designations like master and GM class shooters, but some of those master and GM class shooters aren't actually shooting at the level they should be shooting at, that's kind of frustrating to watch as somebody who's put in a lot of work and who is currently competing at their ranked skill level, right? It's not so much the, you know, the just shooter side of USPSA, but also a business owner side to looking at USPSA and how it works. When companies look at X-class ranking, think that somebody's halfway decent and decide this is a good person to represent our company, but when you actually know the math and the stuff on the back end of it and you know, well, no, that's not actually true, that's not what they actually shoot at, that can get frustrating when there's a lot of really good dudes who just haven't hit that lucky streak of making master yet. And I'm not even speaking about myself, but there's a lot of good dudes who have not quite hit the rank of master or GM that put out really good stuff, and they aren't getting the same opportunities as guys who are a higher ranking than them, but overall lower match performance. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, this gets into kind of my third topic, because we kind of touched on two there, but this creates a lot of communal divides inside of USPSA. Certain pockets of shooters or instructors will click together based on perceived differences in classification, methodologies, competition standings, etc. The sad reality is that no one is really safe from this when you're rubbing shoulders with collectively the best shooters in the world, right? Even sadder is that I look at a lot of my friends and others that I've met and wonder what it would be like to have all their knowledge in a collective hive mind, and to not have these personality conflicts kind of ruin the collective wisdom that could be had. Now, people are people. People make mistakes. You know, friends have issues. It's going to happen. But these personality differences and these conflicts, I think, are maximized by how different people see the game. And at the end of the day, that's what USPSA is. It's just a game. If you care about it, it matters to you. If you don't care about it, it doesn't matter at all. At the end of the day, it's a game, though. Does it build skill level very rapidly and showcase some of the best shooters that have, you know, probably ever been around? Absolutely it does. But it's sad to see, you know, good dudes that, you know, on their own merit they put out good stuff. They try to help people. They try to run a business. They try to keep it successful. And then to see divides happen inside of that, because shooting culture is small in itself, and then USPSA culture is even smaller within that. And the high-level dudes are like the 0.0001% of the whole shooting culture. And to see that there's so many divides within that small percentage of people, not gonna lie, it kind of sucks. I guess it's just one of those, you know, human being errors, one of those human being things that happens. I just wish it didn't have to be like that. So maybe someday, right? And my last negative that I'm going to hit, and I'm obviously generalizing a lot of stuff here. There's probably some very specific negatives I don't like a rule somewhere or whatever, but I'm just talking about the overall impact of USPSA on your shooting journey and your life overall. And the last thing I'm going to say is that USPSA can become all-consuming. Between matches, practice, traveling for either, and the mental investment across the board, you get lost in the sauce pretty quick. And it takes above average time management skills, in my opinion, to be able to do the sport at full bore, but not neglect the things that matter too. Once you start making gains and you see the progress in real time, the hardest thing to do is to let up and accept that you're still going to make those gains, and maybe you won't make it as fast. Maybe it'll take you 2 weeks to iron out an issue as opposed to a week. Maybe it'll take you a month as opposed to 2 weeks. In the grand scheme of things, I don't think that really matters, right? As long as you're working and you're working on ironing out whatever shooting issues you have, as long as you're working and you're making progress towards these issues that you have, what does it really matter, right? As long as you're still working, you don't have to go 110% in, which I am guilty of doing. I've caught myself doing it, and it's not good. Self-admittedly, I have shot a sectional match and spent a weird amount of time afterwards going, like, watching the scores and the live updates to see, you know, did I win A class, or did I do this, or did I do that? In all reality, you know, it's a little bit of that. I don't know if it's hyper competitive or a little bit of an ego issue, right? Maybe a little bit of both, if I'm being honest. But you thrive on this idea that you could have been the best on any given match. But in all reality, it doesn't matter, right? What should happen is you show up, you shoot the match. It's not like you can change the hits. It's not like you can change the time. Once the bullets leave your gun, that is it. You shot your match. However it ends up is how it ends up. And you get sucked into this idea of like, hey, if I can win this, or if I can win that, or if I can, you know, shoot X percentage of this guy, it doesn't matter. It doesn't. Whatever you shot, you shot. The results will be there at the end. And you need to move on, work on what you need to work on, and have fun all at the same time. The biggest detriment, and the thing I wish I could take back most inside of my USPSA journey so far, is the obsessive hours on different things that should have been spent better elsewhere, right? Lots of time sacrificed to USPSA that I'm going to be diligent in my second year of USPSA about having a better balance in my life, because obsessing over a shooting sport, really not the way to go, right? Even though I love guns, I love the training culture, I love everything about it most days. Some days I'm pissy, but it is what it is. You shouldn't get obsessed over a game. It's not how it should go. No matter how much that game impacts your shooting trajectory, at the end of the day, it's a game, it's not everything. Act accordingly, right? Alright guys, so overall, should you do USPSA? Yes, I think you should. I say all of the negatives to let you know that, again, the positives outweigh the negatives, right? The benefits in shooting outweigh the negatives 110%. Now, I want you guys, if you've never been in USPSA or if you're thinking about going into it, keep everything I said in the back of your head and be excited about the journey, right? Don't get caught up in the sauce. Don't make USPSA your whole identity or your whole life. Don't get caught up in people not getting along with each other. Don't get caught up in being upset that some guy shot a classifier real good at one point in time and, you know, on paper he's at a higher level than you, even though you don't agree with it. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. What matters is what you get out of the sport. I've seen the benefits firsthand in 1 year of doing USPSA, and I can tell you it's worth it. And I wish I would have gotten involved sooner. For all the negatives I spelled out, the positives are going to always far outweigh those negatives. There's a few guys I need to give a shout out to who specifically in USPSA have really guided me. That's going to be Jake, Matt, and Brennan. Those three dudes have done a great job in helping me really understand the sport, understand the game, understanding the math and all the numbers that go into USPSA. When you look at all the data that they do to try to figure out this stuff, it turns from arbitrary numbers to empirical data really, really fast. And having somebody help me understand that, because I am a numbers guy, I do like numbers, that helped me understand a whole lot about the sport and like really where I was lacking, right? Looking at the, hey, I have more alphas and charlies and no deltas and no mics compared to this guy. Why didn't I win? Well, because he put 30 seconds on me. That's why, because it really comes down to a balance of speed and accuracy. And I believe USPSA is going to give you the best representation of that ratio. Shout out to those guys. Really, really appreciate all their guidance when it comes to this sport. My goal for 2026 is I want to be able to regularly shoot at an M-class level, being an A-class shooter right now, and then eventually earn the designation of master to match my current skill base. That's how I think it should go in that order. I want to have the skill on demand and not so much push for a classification, then work my skill level up to that classification. Either way works. It happens to everybody at some point in time. If I had my say of how it goes, that's how it would go. And I would like to achieve that in carry optics. Maybe someday move on to some other divisions, try some stuff, but right now, that's my game. I hope this video inspires some of you guys to really check out USPSA, to go to your first match. Like I said, you don't have to go full bore. You don't have to dive into it, but get that experience under your belt. Check it out. See what all the craze is. Maybe it's not for you. Maybe you go there and you're like, man, I hate this. I don't like seeing grown men wearing like super tight sun shirts and leggings and bright colored holsters and all this crazy stuff, and that's totally fine. If it's not for you, find another shooting game to test your skill and put your skill and ability to the test. I think USPSA is the best one I've tried so far, but hey, everybody's different. If it's not for you, then by all means, try something different. And I know I put out a video a while ago that said USPSA will save your life. I 100% stand by that. If you are somebody that just wants to get better for the idea of like a defensive engagement, USPSA is going to help. Are you going to learn tactics doing USPSA? No. But you will learn how to shoot better. So I think there's a lot of benefits to be had with this. If you just started, I hope you keep attending matches based on some of the stuff I said. But really, like I said, it's going to come down to you. I don't care what you do. It's your life. I know where USPSA is going to fit into mine. And honestly, I need to dial it back a little bit and give it the priority it deserves, but I'm going to continue to do it. I'm going to have fun with it, have a good time. So I hope this helps you guys. Here, check out the sponsors. There's Brownell's, Winchester Armament, Gat Monkey Slings, Krate Tactical Targets, Apocalypse Holsters, Modern Material Rifles. Check out the website, training courses, all that type of thing. Guys, I appreciate you stopping by. Stay safe, stay trained, stay rad. I'll be back with the next one.